So you have these things that are called productive distractions. Talk to us about what those are so that can also help us further here.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things. One is when we talked about the sort of interruptions, right? Interrupting yourself to make sure that you're on track. That's a really, really productive distraction. Another is there's two kinds of tasks in a sense. There's one kind of task which is a positive task, right? I want to do something. And there's another which is a negative task, which is I want to not do something, right? A diet is a great example of a negative task. I want to not do something, right? I want to not eat sugar. I want to not eat high-calorie foods. I want to not eat a lot of red meat or whatever it is that you want to not eat. So if you want, there's another thing, which is I want to not talk so much in meetings. I want to, not interrupt someone. I mean, whatever it is, there's a tremendous number of things that you want to do, and there's also a tremendous number of things that you want to not do, that you don't want to do. Focus has been shown to be incredibly useful when looking at the things that you want to do, right? If you want to speak up in a meeting, for example, it's really useful to focus on that, to focus on speaking up in a meeting. If you want to not speak up in a meeting, it turns out focusing on not speaking up in the meeting is incredibly painful and not very successful. And they did this great experiment in the 70s that they've repeated in lots of different ways. It's called the marshmallow experiment. And the marshmallow experiment is really fun if you've ever seen videos of it because they use children to do it. But they put all these kids in front of a marshmallow. And they said, look, and kids meaning 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. And they said, look, you can have this marshmallow now, right? I'm going to leave the room. And when I'm gone, you can eat this marshmallow if you want. But if you hold out until I come back, then I'm going to give you 2 marshmallows, right? So you can eat this marshmallow now, or if you wait, a few minutes until I come back, you can have 2 marshmallows. You decide what you want to do. Now, to watch these kids try to not eat the marshmallow is, it's a Laurel and Hardy kind of episode. I mean, it's a Three Stooges. It's really, really fun to watch them not do it. By the way, there's a lot of correlation between your ability to withstand that temptation and success in life. So these kids, the kids who were ultimately successful in not eating the marshmallow, those kids ended up getting higher on their SATs, having longer lasting relationships, making more money because they tracked them, because this was done in the 70s. They've had 40 years to track them. They've been tremendously more successful than the ones who could not resist the temptation. So the question the researchers asked is, how did you resist the temptation? What is it that you did? Right? Remember, because willpower and self-discipline is not so useful, right? We want to avoid using willpower and self-discipline as much as possible. So the ones who were unsuccessful, the ones who ended up eating the marshmallows, actually relied on self-discipline. They would look at that marshmallow and they would say, like, I'm not going to eat it. 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 And then they would take a big bite, right? Because they're focused so much on the thing that they don't want to do that they end up doing it, because that's the entire, it becomes larger than life in their minds. The ones who were successful at waiting for the researcher to come back in and to get their second marshmallow, the ones who were successful at waiting, are ones who distracted themselves from the task. Some of them sat underneath the table. Some of them took the marshmallow and pretended it was a little animal and played a game with the animal. So it was no longer a marshmallow. It was a giraffe or it was an elephant. And, they had imaginary play with it. Some of them would turn their chairs to face the other direction and sing a song. What they had to do is to take this distraction out of their face. What they had to do is distract themselves productively from the thing they didn't want to do. And when they distracted themselves productively from the thing that they didn't want to do, they didn't do it. And so it's much better to just look away than it is to look at and try to get yourself to not do that thing.